Hello and welcome to Replica Airguns video. My name's Michael K. And today I'm reviewing the Baikal IZH MP-655K CO2 pellet and BB pistol. That's a mouthful. Now this is a replica of the Baikal Viking 9mm semi-auto pistol, which is actually a version of the Yargan pistol. And this firearm is the latest Russian standard military issue sidearm. Now of course this product is made in Russia, and it's actually made in the same factory as many of the actual Baikal firearms. The Baikal MP-655K comes in this cardboard box here. Now it's wrapped in a wax type paper. I'll just show you that really quickly. Good luck trying to get it all back in here, but it comes in this wax paper, and it seems like all the Baikal guns pretty much come in a wax type paper. Of course, inside you'll have your manual, and you will need to read this manual. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of information that you need to read in order to use this gun. Now the wording is a little funny because it's been translated from Russian to English, but you'll get the point. You also get a tool. This is a cleaning tool here, and it could probably also be used for possibly unjamming pellets or BBs if you need to. Comes with some extra seals, gaskets, and you also get 2 magazines. Now this is the BB magazine, and I'll show that to you a little bit later on how it works. Now the MP-655K is a non-blowback pistol. It has a metal slide and a polymer frame just like the real Baikal Viking, the 9mm version. It uses 12 gram CO2 cartridges. Now it shoots .177 caliber lead pellets and 4.5mm steel BBs, which is nice. It has a claimed maximum feet per second velocity of 360 FPS. It uses 8 round rotary magazines, 1 for the pellets, and then it has, now I'm not going to say it's an 8 round rotary magazine for the BBs. What actually happens is the BB magazine does have 8 holes in it, but what actually happens is the 100 round hopper and the combination of the magnet in the magazine feeds the BBs into the holes and allows you to continuously shoot the 100 BBs until the gun's empty. Now the Baikal MP-655K has a rifled barrel. It weighs about 1.5 pounds dry, and it uses a single and double action trigger. Let's take a look around the pistol. As I said before, we have a metal slide with the Baikal branding on it, along with the Made in Russia. The frame is polymer. We have a metal slide catch. We have an ambidextrous safety here. We also have an ambidextrous magazine release, and we have a metal trigger. The magazine release, by the way, is metal. Let's take a quick look at the magazine right now. Now this is a very interesting design. You can open this up and get to the CO2 by pushing this little button in right here, and the bottom part comes out. Now by the way, you can actually use this to store BBs. You can see your CO2 goes in here, and you just use the tightener here, the tab, to tighten it up and down. When you're done and the CO2 is in, you just put the magazine back into the gun and it clips in. Let's take a quick look at the right side of the MP-655K. I didn't mention it, but it does have a cutout ejection port. You can see that from both sides. Again, here on the metal slide we have the caliber engraved on the slide. We also have the model number here, MP-655K, along with the serial number. Again, the ambidextrous safety. Now sometimes you kind of need to use 2 hands to do this. It's fairly firm. Now this gun's brand new and it will work in a little bit. Again, the ambidextrous magazine release, metal trigger, again polymer frame. Now on the top of this gun, of course, we have our sights. The front sight is molded into the metal slide. The back sight is fully adjustable for windage and elevation. Now there's no white markings on the sights, so if you're targeting this gun in on a dark background it may be a little bit difficult, but I found it worked fairly well in my test results. Again, here is the open ejection port, and this is used for loading. So I'll quickly give you an example of how this works. You pull your slide back, you have 2 different points that you can actually click the slide catch into. The first one would be for loading, and you can see here that the barrel comes forward, but you'll need to move this forward a little bit to take out the magazine. Now the magazines are a little bit tricky to remove from this gun. I found a little bit of a trick. And the first thing you're going to want to do is take out the actual magazine. Now not the pellet magazine, but the CO2 magazine. And then you're going to want to just rotate the trigger a little bit. And you'll see how it kind of just moves up and down a bit. It moves up and down just enough that you can grab it and pull it out. And I found that's the easiest way to take out at least the pellet magazine. Now the BB magazine, you can see it's a little bit different here. It has a magnet in it. And the magnet actually is very, very strong. So when the actual BB magazine is in the gun, it's very difficult to take out, and you almost need to use tools to get it out. I just use a couple Allen keys from either side to pop it out. But the pellet magazine, because it's not magnetic, comes out a lot easier. I quickly want to show you how the BBs just kind of go in here. They just go in. They just see how strong that is. They just want to go in. Now normally there would be a ring around here when the magazine's in the gun, so they wouldn't want to touch the actual magazine, but they would just want to slide into these holes. And they're in there, they're not coming out. So again, when you put the magazines back in, you want these little gears to go towards the rear of the gun. This goes all the way back until it's over top of the magazine, then you can release the slide. Now when you're loading BBs, you just push this all the way forward and you just put your BBs in this BB loading bay here. You just dump them in essentially, and you can put about 100 BBs. And then when you pull this back, there's actually a spring. There's like a spring that feeds the BBs towards the back of the gun, loading them into the rotary magazine. Now to see how full your actual BB hopper is, there's a plunger that moves up and down this, I guess you'd call it a fake barrel because this isn't the real barrel, and the plunger will come out, and so when you pull this down, now this would be in, but when you pull this back to this point, you would see the plunger and you'd get an idea of how many BBs are in there just by looking at these open holes on the top of the actual barrel. Kind of a different system. I hope I'm explaining it properly to you, but it does work fairly well. And you know, you can do that typical slide release, which is neat. Alright, so let's quickly take a look at the front of this gun. We have these two barrels. Now I say two barrels, but they're actually, the top one is where the BBs go, so it's like the loading hopper. And the bottom one here, this one is the actual barrel. Normally this bottom piece would be the slide spring guide. But what's really nice is the bottom one is rifled. I can't really show you, it's a little bit difficult to do that. But you might even notice that inside of this sort of fake barrel, see if I can get in here and let you see that. It's actually got like a pretend or a fake rifling in there as well for realism. And on the bottom of the Baikal MP-655K, of course we have our magazine. Shown you that already, but we'll quickly just pop it out. There it is again. And we have the tactical rail for accessories like a laser or a tactical light. Okay, so here's my comparison, and the closest gun that I really have in my collection, another Russian gun, is the Skiff A3000. Now I've done a full review on that one as well. You can take a look at that review. I'll put a link in here. Both of these guns have metal slides and polymer frames. The Skiff has a belt-fed style magazine, so it's a little bit different, but both of them can shoot pellets and BBs, and both of them are single and double action, which is nice. Alright, so now we're going to head outside. We're going to do the chronograph and shooting portion of this test to find out what kind of feet per second real world results we can get, and to see what kind of grouping we can get shooting 8 rounds from about 20 feet away in a freestanding position. Alright, so I've got my Baikal MP-655K pistol. We're going to shoot 8 rounds with this chronograph right now and see how well we do. Now I've shot off 1 round just to make sure that this gun is operating as it should be. But I have 8 rounds in the 8-round rotary magazine, so let's proceed. 345. I'm firing this, by the way, in single action mode. 356. 348. 325. 300, 300, 304, one more. And 312. Okay, so it dropped off a little bit, and that's fairly normal. We're going to head to the shooting portion of this test and see how well we do in the accuracy department. So I've got my Baikal MP-655K all ready to go. We're going to shoot 8 rounds into this target. We're using pellets, and by the way, I'm using about a 7-grain pellet. I was using 7-grain pellets for the chrony portion of the test, and I'm using a dome pellet for the accuracy portion of the test, slightly heavier. Here we go. I'm going to shoot in single action. I'm pre-cocking this gun. Not even counting, so hopefully and that's it. Now this gun won't let you shoot anymore once you fire the last pellet. Now this definitely needs to be sighted in. I have not sighted this gun in at all, and you can see that they shot fairly high here. Now this trigger takes some getting used to, and it's really important what kind of pellets you use. If they don't sit in there properly, you're going to get some friction while the rotary magazine rotates, and the pellets that I'm using, I'm not sure if they're the best ones for this gun, as I can feel them binding a little bit because they didn't quite seat exactly the way that I wanted them to, but still not too bad. That's about a 2-inch grouping, and like I said, I was struggling with the trigger. I could feel it doing some weird things for me. I'm going to try shooting some BBs through this gun as well, and I'll do a separate target. I'm not going to record it, but I'm going to actually shoot some BBs through this target as well to see if they work a little better for me. Alright, so let's head inside for the rest of the review. Okay, so the MP-655K did fairly well in the chronograph test. Now it didn't quite get up to the claimed feet per second rating. It seemed to want to get down to just above 300 feet per second and kind of stay there. Now I did go back after I shot 3 magazines of pellets through this gun, and I shot some BBs, and the results that I got were similar. I was able to get between 310 and 320 feet per second when I switched over to the BB magazine and shot BBs. Now I was able to get quite a few shots out of the Baikal MP-655K, so I think with this particular gun you're going to sacrifice a little bit of feet per second for possibly some more shots. Now as I said, I shot 3 magazines worth of pellets, and then I loaded the BB magazine in, and I loaded up about 100 BBs, and I wasn't counting exact numbers, but I unloaded about 3/4 of the BBs before the gun seemed to noticeably drop in performance. So when you add about 75 BBs to approximately 25 rounds of pellets, you're looking at about 100 shots. That's fairly good for this style of gun. Now when I did my accuracy portion of the test, shooting from 20 feet out in a freestanding position, I found I was having quite a bit of difficulty getting used to the trigger, but I think a lot of this was in part to the pellets that I was using. I typically use a certain pellet in most of these guns, and each gun is going to like some pellets over other pellets, and I don't think the pellets that I was using were really the right one for this gun. They didn't quite seat in there properly. They seem to be a little bit loose, which means they're going to move around in the magazine and possibly bind the rotation just a little bit when you're shooting it. So my suggestion would be to find a pellet that sits in there just nicely, so you don't want the pellet to be too tight or too loose or even too long. Now I quickly want to show you my targets. The top one represents 3 magazines of pellets, and you can see that they stayed well within my initial 8-shot grouping. When I switched over to BBs, I did adjust the sights for elevation a little bit because I was shooting quite high with the pellets. And I shot these BBs off in both single and double action and fairly quickly, so I wasn't exactly trying to be accurate. I just wanted to get a feel for how the gun felt and how the trigger worked. And with BBs, I was definitely noticing that the action was a lot smoother. Alright, so it's time for the pros and the cons. Some of the things that I liked about the Baikal MP-655K were the materials that it's made out of. They're very high quality. I would consider the materials that this gun's made out of to be weapons grade quality, like many of the other Baikal products. It has a metal slide, a lot of metal components throughout, and really just the frame and the CO2 magazine utilize the polymer parts. This is a really tough looking gun. In many ways it feels more like an actual firearm than an air gun. So if you're looking for something with realism, you're going to probably like the Baikal MP-655K. Now the Baikal has a very unique design, and I think it's one of the only BB pistols like this that has a 100-round BB hopper, and you can continuously shoot all 100 BBs literally with one CO2 and without reloading. Now because of the hopper style loading bay for the BBs, it makes it really easy to load this gun, unlike other magazine fed guns where you have to load them individually or put the ammunition into a belt or rotary magazine. Now I like that the Baikal MP-655K can shoot both pellets and BBs, and that it also shoots in both single and double action. It also has a fully adjustable rear sight for windage and elevation, and of course a rifled barrel. Now it does have a very interesting CO2 magazine, which makes it really easy to load CO2, and the hidden BB compartment is a nice added touch. So let's move on with some of the cons. You're going to have to thoroughly read the manual on the Baikal MP-655K, and because it's translated from Russian to English, the reading is a little bit difficult, but after reading it a few times you'll figure out how the gun works. Now even though this product is easy to load the BBs in, it's a little bit more difficult to load pellets because you have to really make sure you find the right pellet for it, and getting the pellet magazine out takes a little bit of practice. And lastly, the trigger itself is a little bit edgy, and what I mean by that is it seems to have some sharp edges, and so when you're shooting this gun a lot, you may find that your finger may get a little bit calloused up. But I guess, hey, in Russia, they don't really care about that kind of thing. Alright, so thanks again for watching a Replica Airguns video. As always, make sure to come down to the Replica Airguns website. Check out all my articles and reviews where you'll find a lot of different information, sometimes more information than what's in these videos. I do have this product available online in the Replica Airguns store, so make sure to check out the Replica Airguns store and take a look at this gun and many other products, including other airguns, blank guns, and accessories. I want to thank all my subscribers for watching all my videos. If you're not a subscriber, please think about subscribing before you leave. And if you're not a subscriber, well, come on back. I can guarantee you there will be more video reviews down the road. So until the next video, take care and have a great day.